Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar, where we sit down and talk with interesting professional guitar players, uncover their stories, and discover what makes them tick. If you love guitar, music, and the backstory of people's lives, stick around. You're in the right place. Hi, this is Craig. Just want to let you know you can now advertise here on Everyone Loves Guitar podcast. For more information, go to everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise. That's everyonelovesguitar.com/advertise. Hey, everybody, this is Craig Garber. Welcome to Everyone Loves Guitar. And on that note, we're going to show some love to the rhythm section today. And I want to tell just a real quick story. When I interviewed Warren Zant from India, who goes by Blackstrap Blues. I guess I interviewed Warren about a month and a half, 2 months ago maybe, and I'm listening to his music and I'm like, dude, I don't know who that guy is on the drums, but that guy is like, you know, you have kerosene and all of a sudden you struck a match to it, because that guy is really keeping this whole house moving. And he said, yes, he is. And I said, would you, give me an introduction to your drummer? And that's who we have on today. We're with Row Kavi. And he's a brilliant drummer and just a lovely guy. And I'm really excited about talking with him. He's got a good story too. He didn't start playing drums till after he finished high school. And then he signed up for drum lessons. And over the next 2 years, he just went nuts playing and started making a name for himself in the local music scene over in India by playing and recording with a number of local rock and heavy metal bands. I've taken out a lot of the names of these artists because most of the people here in the States won't have a clue who these are. I'm sorry. But suffice it to say, there's a litany of artists that he has played with. After that, he took a year off to hone his drumming skills. He came over here to LA to go to Musicians Institute, majoring in percussion. And then when he returned to Bombay, he began teaching at the Garodia School of Music with Gino Banks and Vinayak Pol. Did I get those names right?
Yeah.
Well, I couldn't screw up Gino, but Vinayak,
yeah.
I was a little worried
Vinayak.
about it. Vinayak. Okay, sorry, Vinayak.
Yeah.
Since then, he's gone on to play with some of India's biggest musicians in bands such as Indus Creed, Pentagram, Sharon Funk. Do you know the band here called Pentagram?
I've heard of them, yes.
They're an older band. I
Yeah.
actually have their guitar player coming on tomorrow, oddly enough.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're older band.
Pentagram's like one of the biggest bands here.
Really? What kind of music?
Electronica, rock.
Interesting.
Now, yeah. But they've been around. They've been around since I think the early '90s here, and they've always been a really good band.
That's cool, man.
Yeah. So it's always like Pentagram, Zero, like the big boys, basically.
For electronica.
Yeah. Well, they used to be like a full-blown rock band back in the day, and I guess they kind of went in another direction now. But they're still like a big, huge sounding rock band.
Very
but with,
cool,
I guess,
man.
elements of electronica now.
Okay, so he's also performed concerts and recorded with leading Bollywood artists like Shankar S.N. Loy. And if that name sounds familiar, it should, because I interviewed S.N. Noorani, who's the guitar player for Shankar S.N. Loy. And if you haven't checked that interview out, please do. I would encourage you to listen to it. It's really great and really deep. And he's also played Indian fusion music with many popular artists. He was recently part of the band that headlined the successful NH7 festival with renowned producer Karsh Kale. He's here in the States too, I think, isn't he? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. He lives in New York.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah.
2012 saw the release of Indus Creed's album called Evolve on Universal Records, and Jai has collaborated with artists Karsh Kale and Ram Sapath and been featured on their episodes on the popular music TV show MTV Coke Studio. Now that, to an American, that sounds illicit, like MTV Coke. It's like the first thing that goes to your mind is cocaine. It's really funny.
Yeah,
what is it over there, MTV Coke Studio? I know it's not cocaine.
Yeah, so Coke Studio was this thing that I think started in South Africa and Pakistan, if I'm not mistaken, where basically they have like a music, like a director in charge, and then they have a bunch of featuring artists. So then they brought it over here with MTV, and then it's like Coca-Cola. It's like a thing that Coca-Cola does, and it's, if you check it out, it's all over YouTube, where they have basically the same thing, where they have like one guy in charge or one producer in charge, and then he'll write maybe 5 or 6 songs that feature different playback singers and a variety of Indian instrumentalists and things like that.
Very cool.
So yeah, it's all kinds of music basically, but it's interesting because it's shot live, and you'd have like people that usually wouldn't play together would play together on things like this.
Oh, that's cool.
That's what makes it interesting. And you'll get to see and hear like folk musicians that would probably never get a lot of coverage or any coverage. I wouldn't know of these guys if I hadn't seen them on Coke Studio. So that's interesting.
Very cool.
Yeah,
so if you want to check that out, it's MTV Coke Studio, COKE. Yeah. Great. Check that out. It sounds really cool. I'm going to actually look at it myself.
I think you'll have to do Coke Studio India, because I think there's Coke Studio Pakistan and probably other places as well.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yeah.
In 2015, Blackstrap Blues, it's Warren Mendonça, who I mentioned, his third album came out called The Universe Has a Strange Sense of Humor. All his albums have like great titles. And Jai was a part of that. He's currently writing new material and performing with Indus Creed and prog metal act Pangea. And he's been collaborating live with music composer Amit Trivedi while continuing with other live and studio projects as a sessions musician. He's recorded drums with music composers Shankar Essen and Loy for the film Rock On 2. Lately, he's also been performing with Sony Music hip-hop artist Divine. And apart from performing live with bands, Jai is a clinician, and an educator, and frequently holds drum workshops around the country, teaching and mentoring up-and-coming drummers. And he recently set up his own drum facility, and he teaches private lessons. Row Kavi exclusively plays and endorses Pearl drums, Meinl cymbals. Sorry, man, I'm butchering these. Evans drum.
That was perfect.
All right, good. Evans drum heads, Vic Firth drumsticks. I am always scared to death of the introduction that I screw up all the names. The rest of the thing, I know I'm fine, but I always. Well, anyway, man, thank you so much for coming on the show, Jay. I really appreciate it.
Oh, thanks for having me, man. It really means a lot. That, and I'm sorry I had to make you wait, like I was saying. And
please.
But I'm happy I'm here, and the show's called Everyone Loves Guitar, and I love guitar. I think I should have been a guitar player, but I ended up being a drummer. But yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
And man, thank you for coming, and what a drummer you are, for sure, man. Let's talk about that. So you started playing late compared to most people, and I was curious what got you interested at that age in the first place.
I think it's weird because I had nothing to do with music until I took my first lesson when I was 16. I had never even seen a drum set, up close before that. But there was, I guess, something that always fascinated me about the instrument, and I would listen to like the Chili Peppers, or I would listen to a bunch of different rock, Metallica and stuff like that, and I think the drums always interested me in many ways, like just the bigness of it and how powerful they were as an instrument. And a friend of mine was learning guitar at this music school here in Bombay, and I was like, oh, you know what, and he's like, you should come. They teach drums there as well. And I was like, okay, I'll come check it out. And that was it, man. I was sold.
Did anybody in your family play music, or? Absolutely
not. Yeah, nobody. That's the thing. But although I got to say, I grew up listening to Pink Floyd. My parents would always play if we ever took like trips in the car.
That's so cool.
The Beatles, definitely. Bread.
Yeah, great band.
Yeah, Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young. So I always, I understood that music, I guess, growing up. You know what I mean? It just seemed normal to me, and it's not like I understood songs, I guess, listening to the Beatles as a kid and whatnot. So and yeah, I think the drums were a major. It just seemed cool, man, to begin with, I guess. And I was a big Limp Bizkit fan back in the day.
That's funny.
That was one of the big time, man. I was like, oh, dude, I gotta check that out. That seems like fun, and that's what just kicked it off, I guess.
Now you grew up with Warren, though, didn't? Or you were friends a long time?
No, I actually didn't. I remember going. So there used to be this big festival called Independence Rock, which happened on Independence Day in Bombay.
Which is what?
Which is 15th of August.
Okay.
Oh, sorry. I meant it's basically it was just a big rock gig, man, at this legendary venue called Rang Bhavan.
No,
So
you
I
answered it.
remember
I meant which was what was Independence Day? No, you got it, man.
Oh, okay, good.
All good.
And so it was just like a big rock gig on Independence Day, and I remember going and watching Zero play, and that was the first Indian band I heard was Zero, and I was like, holy shit, man, these guys are wow, like that's pretty amazing. It sounds as big as all the stuff I've been listening to all this time. How come I didn't know this existed in my own city, you know? And that's when I think it was about the same time that I started playing. And somehow I met Gino Banks, the drummer you mentioned, who was a senior of mine in school. And he's actually one of the best drummers in the country. And I got in touch with him, he used to play with Warren. They used to play with this artist called Joe Alvarez. And I used to help Gino take his drums to his gigs and whatnot. And I knew Warren's younger brother vaguely because we all went to the same school. And I vaguely knew him, and I was like, oh man, I went to the same school as you, and I kind of knew your brother or whatever. And I guess I just met him at those gigs, and I'd been a fan of his ever since I saw him at Rang Bhavan. And that's how I met Warren, actually.
That's cool.
Yeah.
The reason I thought what was interesting is you said, like, he said the same thing. His parents used to go and they'd play Pink Floyd all the time. And I'm like, your parents are playing. So I thought maybe you guys grew up together, like your parents were friends or something. Interesting.
Yeah. We grew up fairly close to each other, but we just didn't know of each other. You know, I guess that's how it works. Because Bombay is not a very big.
Billions of people there, no?
23 something million, man.
Yeah,
so you can miss someone.
Yeah.
In the crowd, you know
just a little.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so and it's crazy. Like I even remember Warren's brother and my and I shared the same math teacher, and he used to tell me that Warren's granddad used to complain that his band is too loud, and so I vaguely knew that the Mendonça brothers, like, you know, the musical guys or whatever, but I never heard Zero, and so and then I met him, and then. That's when I just started. And then for the first couple of years, I didn't really own a drum set. So I used to just beat the shit out of chairs and pillows at home. And then I graduated high school then. And then that's when my mom got me my first drum set. And I think that's when they kind of realized that, okay, this is something I think he's pretty serious about. So that's when I decided. And I think one real turning point for me was watching the Rolling Stones, and they came here, played in Bombay.
Oh,
I was like, man, these guys are kicking ass. Like, I have to do this. This is what I have to do in life. So that was one of the turning points in my career.
It's funny. I've always really been a fan of Charlie Watts.
Yeah, he's interesting.
He holds it down, man. I mean, he's just like a Swiss watch, that dude, man.
Absolutely, yeah.
Really, I've always been a fan of his. I thought that's really cool. I have to do this. I like that. Okay, so then you're playing for a couple of years, and then you go to MI in Hollywood. That's a pretty big move. Did you have family there, or?
Yeah. So I have an older brother that moved to the US in 2003, and I used to have a green card, which was like a permanent resident card.
Yeah.
And the plan was always to move to the States at some point in life. So I was like, I'm playing drums now. Maybe I should think about my parents and my older brother. They were like, maybe you should think about studying music. And I was like, I never really thought about what I wanted to do, because in India, it's like right after high school, you kind of have to decide whether you want to study science or like arts or economics and stuff like that. And I really didn't know what I was going to do. And so I kind of just scraped through high school because I'd already started playing then, and I was like, okay, I'll go check this school out. So I checked out, and so my brother actually moved there in 2003, and he went there to study. He was studying to be a chef, and he's like, you know what? I'm done with my parents paying for school. I'm gonna join the army and pay for school myself. Yeah. So
holy shit. So your brother came here, joined so back then you were able to get citizenship and all that stuff a lot easier.
Well, he had a green card, and you could join the army if you had a green card back then.
You know what, man? That's amazing. I didn't know that you could join.
And he freaked my dad out because that was just about the time the war had started.
Afghanistan.
Yep.
Yeah.
So
Holy
my dad's
crap.
like, so anyway, he finished his, he was deployed in California in the Mojave. And he's like, I'm in California. Are there any schools you want to check out here? Why don't you come visit? So I was like, oh yeah, of course. I'd heard of MI because I just over the years, I don't exactly know how, but I was like, okay, I'll come out to LA and I'll check out MI. I checked out another school called Llama, which is LA Music Academy in Pasadena, California. And I really liked MI, and I was like, I should really go there. So I came back. That was around 2004, I think. And then 2006 is when I went to MI.
Was your brother here, still living in LA or in California?
He was, in fact, the year that I moved there, he had finished his time with the Army and he moved to Chicago.
Oh, wow.
Because that's where he really liked Chicago. He lives in Dallas now. He's married and he lives in Dallas now.
Chef still? Yeah. Is he a chef?
No, he does all kinds of things. In fact, he's just about to start his own cleaning company.
Good for him, man.
Yeah,
that's awesome. That's a great.
Yeah, he's a real hardworking guy, man. He intense dude, but like really nice dude, and he's like one of my heroes. So yeah.
What a great like immigration story, though. He comes here, right? Doesn't want mom and dad paying, joins the Army. Yeah. What a man. Tell him that's awesome. That's I'm sure he's listening to this. Dude, you did a great thing, man. What a good story you have. I'm real happy for you, man.
Oh man, I'm gonna send him this link, so he's gonna hear this, and I bet he's actually, so all these years I've been playing in like, weird metal bands and stuff, and Blackstrap Blues is the only band that I think he really digs. He listens to it all the time, and he's like, hey, I'm listening to one of your songs now. I'm like, oh, cool, man.
That
cool. Means a lot to me. Like, it's the small things, I guess,
Yeah, it's always that way, man. That's very cool. Thank you for sharing that story. So when you came here, even though you were alone, because I mean, physically, you probably still felt like a little bit of a safety net, because if something went, if you had any questions, you just pick up the phone.
Absolutely. I'd call him and he'd help me out. Like when I moved to LA, my folks came to kind of drop me off, and he was there and he was wrapping up his things his stuff in California. And you know how it is, like you got to get a bank account and you got to get like a phone and all that shit. Yeah. And so he really helped me with all that stuff, even getting an apartment, because that's intense.
Oh, that's difficult if you not know. Well, I couldn't imagine going to India on my own and getting an apartment. I'd be just feel like you're like a piece of bloodied meat and all the sharks are around you. That's how I would feel in the States here, to be honest. I don't know how it's just you just feel like helpless, because you don't know the system.
So that was quite something. And even I think the first trip that just me and him, that was the first time I ever went out to LA, and that was quite special, I got to say. It was a good time for me and him.
That's cool.
And man. just seeing LA, man, for the first time, because what your perception of everything is and what it is in reality, I guess, which is interesting. It's not bad or anything.
Talk about that. What was your perception versus reality?
I guess, I don't know, like initially you hear about Hollywood and like it seems like this whole magical destination, and then it turns out it's just a bunch of homeless people fighting each other. But no, it's more than that. But
I've heard that's exactly what I've heard from several people.
And every day I'd make my way to school, and it was just politely guiding Japanese tourists away. Make my way, and I'm carrying my symbols to school and whatnot. But a lot of it is exactly how I guess we think America is. Everything is so much bigger compared to India. But that's the thing. I had been to the States many times before that, because we had the green card for quite a few years, and we had family in the States.
Okay.
So I had been to the States many, many times, but not to LA. But I guess if your question was how different, I guess it was, right?
Yeah.
It's basically definitely everything's so much bigger, right from the cars to the food to the malls and to the grocery stores even. But things like that.
Yeah, I could see that, because my wife is from the UK and I've gone to England several times, and I noticed the cars are smaller, the roads are narrower, the houses, the homes are definitely smaller. Yeah. Like the shower stalls are smaller, refrigerators are smaller, the malls are definitely smaller. So I could see what you're saying. That I
It's
could
the
see.
things, and then I think the thing that I absolutely loved was going to Guitar Center, man. Because I have never
They don't
ever,
have
ever
stores
seen
like that?
anything. No, not that big.
Not that.
Absolutely
Yeah.
not that
Well, you're
big.
in the LA Guitar Center too. That's their flagship.
Yeah,
store,
on Sunset.
I'm sure.
Yeah, on Sunset Boulevard, and that was magical. Quite honestly, I was like, oh my fucking god, dude, 3,000 snare drums in this place, and it's amazing. Things like that.
That's cool, man.
I still get a kick out of that, man. It's fun. I appreciate things like that.
That's cool, man. I think Warren said to me one of the perceptions they had there is that like everybody in America is walking around tanned with muscles with a blonde from TV. Is that accurate?
I would think so. Yeah, a lot of people do think that that's what the US is.
That is,
and that everyone is extremely wealthy, and there's no racism. There's no.
Oh my god!
God. I guess that's what comes with where all you've known about a place is through,
of course,
television, and I guess a lot of people have think about India in the same way. That. Like when I was in the States, people would ask me the same questions, like, "Oh my God, your English is so good," do they have elephants on the streets? And I was like, you know what, they really do sometimes, and they did when I was a kid.
Oh my God!
And they weren't like wild elephants; they were like with a mahout or whatever, and you could actually ride one. And you'd see horses now every now and then. You can ride a horse, like just rent a horse.
That's wild,
things
man.
Like that. And with my English, I guess we all grew up speaking English, and I still speak English with my parents and with my friends, and we studied English. That's probably my primary language.
Right.
So I guess that's
That's funny,
like,
man.
I like when I was in MI, like, because there were students from all over the world, man. It'd be like Italian dudes, Greek dudes, and I guess my English sometimes would be better than theirs,
Yeah.
And how come your English so good? And they feel like
because I speak English.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
But I think that's a thing just for stuff in general, because I went away to school for a couple of years upstate New York, and people would say, "Oh, you're from the Bronx. Were you in a gang?" And I'm like, "Man, I was at the time, like this fat little." I mean, look at me, man. I just like think this through in my head. Like, do I look like a gang member?
Yeah,
I mean, I'm like, and I didn't even know how to answer that question. It was such a kind of like probably how when someone says to you, is there an elephant in your front yard or something like that? You probably like, you part of you wants to like take the piss out of them, and then the other part of you is like, empathetic.
I love to take the piss out of people. Things like that. It's so much fun, man. So much fun. But
was there any big culture shocks for you? Like honestly, interpersonally, like how people related to one another?
No, not really, because I don't know. I guess I had been to the States so many times before that, and no, not really.
That's
nothing
good.
that I can really think of. But yeah, I'd say that's the thing about, I guess, America, is that people just want to work hard and then kind of be on their own. That may be one thing. I guess Indians hang out a lot more than Americans do.
Socialize.
With each other.
It's a weird thing here, man, and I think it's more prevalent in larger cities where people just don't socialize often.
Yeah. I guess, I don't know. I guess they only meet during the weekend, and I get that. If you have a busy job or something. But and also dinner times. That's something that I could never understand, because I think people in the States eat dinner around 5.
5 to I don't know. I eat like later, like 5 to like maybe 7.
Over here I think the normal time is around 8 or 9 p.m.
Interesting. So everybody's that's probably more conducive to everybody has already finished their day, so now you can sit down. Yeah. People are really, one thing I hear that I don't ascribe to, people revolve their schedule around meals.
Yeah.
Very much so. Like they set up this around a meal, and then as you get older, doctor's appointments, thank God, and I hope that'll never be me, that I'll be healthy. But meals, like, Like I've actually heard people saying, well, we got to eat at 6 o'clock. I'm like, cause I don't eat, I eat when I'm hungry. I don't really, but you know, I don't revolve my life around a meal. I would feel like stupid to do that personally. Like it's like limiting, like revolving my life around a meal. It's an abstract thing that I'm in control of. Why would I make it like it's not a power that someone else has over you, you know? So, but that's something that people do here. But yeah, I've heard that from almost everybody that's lived in the States, the social thing. And I don't know. And I wish it wasn't like that, but cause like I see pictures of like,
but sometimes I get it, I guess, you know, I guess that's just the way life is in and it's in like that, maybe in many parts of the world. Even I've spent some time in Australia a couple of years ago, and that's just how life is, where people work and then over the weekend they'd maybe have like a barbecue or like hang out, something like that. And here it's like, you know, it's just a little different, I guess. I don't know.
But I wish we had more flexibility like you guys in a lot of cultures, because like I've seen you and Warren put up some pictures on Facebook or whatever, and like you guys are just hanging out and having dinner on a Wednesday night. Like it was a really cute photo. It was like you and like you were all playing like with Warren's daughter, I think, all playing video. That was like really cute. Yeah, it was really, and you're all, but it was cool. And I think I wish this culture was more like that, because especially as older I get, I value relationships more. And then you read how important relationships are literally for your health, you know, not only just emotional health, but your physical health. So I think that's a healthier society, but I've heard that from everybody. From everybody from Europe, all over the world that says that it's just a little of an adjustment. So, Okay, so you go to MI. Mm-hmm. What made you go back instead of staying? Because you said that maybe the plan was to stay in America. Yeah,
the plan was to stay back, and I actually, I think similarly, just like my brother, I kind of felt really guilty at some point that my parents were kind of, you know, burning up all their savings to send me to music school.
Yeah,
and my plan initially was to, so I went to study an associate's degree, which was a year and a half long. And I did about a year of me being there when I was like, you know what? And that's the good thing about schools in the US is where you can actually take a break.
Yes.
Which is something it's kind of difficult to do here, I think.
Oh, really?
Where you can kind of take a break and be like, you know, many people would choose to take a holiday or maybe study something else and come back. That's really nice about studying in the US, I think. So my plan was probably to come back to India and make some money, kind of get some experience, and then go back and finish this, you know, the remaining
associates.
6 months. Yeah. But I came back, and then, you know, I came back in 2007, and I think 2009-10 is when that recession was really bad in the US.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
It hit end of 2008, yeah.
Exactly, around then. And I was like, I'm kind of playing drums here. Does it make sense for me to kind of go back now? And, you know, things were looking really uncertain then, you know. So I was like, this is what I want to do. I want to play drums. So, and the music scene was a lot different back then in India. It was a lot more brighter.
Yeah.
For independent bands and whatnot back then. And things were looking good. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to stay here. And then that's when I also kind of had to make the decision whether to give up my green card or move back to the US. So I actually chose to give up my green card.
That had to be tough.
Yeah. It's something I kind of not regret, but I think about often that maybe I should have kind of just sucked it up and gone back to the US just to, you know, have that opportunity to have, you know, to live.
Just let me tell you, that period of time, I'm 55 now. So back in 2008, I was, you know, what is this, 19, you know, 11, whatever, a lot younger, 10, 44.
Yeah, something like that.
At that point in time, that had been the worst recession I had ever experienced in my lifetime. So
yeah,
I don't know that you made, for whatever it's worth, a bad decision. I mean, the economy was destroyed here, bad. Man.
And it was crazy because when I was over there, some of my teachers that I had become really close with, they were like, you know, why don't you stay? And you can find ways to pay your parents back or whatever it is. And I guess I was also 19, man. And I hadn't been home in a year.
Yeah.
I was like, you know what? I'm going to go home. I just want to go home and see what it's like. And things looked interesting. And so But in hindsight, I should have stuck that one out just to, have that option, because now I can't really, if I have to work in the US, like if I have to play shows in the US, I need like a P3 visa.
Is that a pain in the ass?
Oh, that's a big pain in the ass.
It's expensive too, probably, right?
Yeah, definitely. Because the time that, remember when I spoke to you, I was over there in the US late last year. So that was to get that visa was through the promoter, so that wasn't very difficult. But if I had to get it for just me applying for myself, that wouldn't be very, very easy at all, because someone has to sponsor you. You know what I mean?
Like a company, a business.
Big, like it'll be very difficult if I had to just do like a tour of some sort that, like if I was to do like a bar tour or something like that, it would be almost impossible in that sense.
I have spoke to so many musicians around the world. Again, same thing. They all want to come here, and they have opportunities in many cases to come and do gigs. Yeah. They said by the time we pay, we're going to be broke.
And also it's like, sorry, I was also saying it's also like, why would someone wait that long to hire someone? I mean, in the US, there's no shortage of great musicians. You know what I mean? Yeah. It's like, oh, we got to get this guy. He's got to get that visa, and he's got to get, by the time he gets his ass over here, it's going to be a couple of months or whatever.
Yeah, it's tough.
So yeah.
It's a shame. I think all the stuff that they've done here is really, it's like anything else. It's, I don't know, like auto insurance, everybody pays crazy auto insurance rates because there are a few bad people that don't have it. And it seems like that's just the case with everything here is, everybody has to get screwed to protect, quote unquote, protect from, a few bad guys in anything.
But that makes sense. That really is the land of opportunity in so many ways. If you think about,
Oh, it is. So, and it's one of the things I've learned here and I love about it, and I've taken advantage of it several times, is you can start over whenever you want. As far as like, if you're a whatever you do for a living and it doesn't work, it's no big deal. You just figure out something else to do. Yeah. Whereas I know in other countries, there's a lot of social stigma that goes with failure. There's a lot of professional. Here it is, tomorrow's another day.
And like at whatever age, that's something that's also, like pretty amazing about the US, I guess.
Yeah. And
things like that.
Yeah. And I like that about the country, and I respect that. But yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So you come back from MI, you go home, you make the tough decision. How do you find gigs initially?
I guess I had been around before I went to MI. I had been playing as much as I could, in as many different setups as I could be in. If it was like rock bands or all kinds of bands, I guess, reggae bands and stuff like that. But largely in the independent circuit, in the independent music circuit. So in India, it's basically Bollywood is like the big commercial money making opportunity that opportunities that musicians have, and then anything that's non-Bollywood, I guess, is categorized as either independent basically. So I had been around that whole circuit for like years and years, so people, I guess, knew of me, and that's when I think I just got hired. It's like, oh, this guy's come back, and remember him, he used to be the loud rock drummer, so let's see what he's up to now. And I guess people hired me then, and I'd play in a bunch of bands and do a fair bit of recording work as well.
Are you doing sessions?
As soon as I got back. Yeah.
That's great.
A bunch of session work. But again, I'd be called for the rock stuff or the pop stuff, which is exactly my bag, so that's perfect.
Yeah, man. You mentioned metal. I don't know if you knew. I had Ray Luzier on here from Korn.
Really? Yeah. Wow. No way.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. His interview is just like maybe dropped a week or two ago. If you go to the homepage, it should be on there. But
I should go check it out. Yeah.
I saw him. They were down here. See, I knew he was playing. Jonathan Davis had an independent tour. That's the lead singer from Korn, so he has his own band.
Yeah.
And so
and Ray was playing with him, I think.
Yeah, Ray was playing with him, and the two guys at the bass and drummer were bass was Brian Allen and Chris Nix was guitar player. Great musicians, both of them. I knew those guys because I had interviewed them, and I actually met them when I was in Nashville. So they were in town here in Tampa, and I got to meet him, and I got to see Ray in a, like a 300 seat club. And I've never in my life seen anybody like what he does is just like,
he's special, man. And funny thing, he went to MI as well, and he actually wrote some of the rock drums curriculum.
He did, and he taught there. That's right. You're 100% right.
And when I was over there, he had just I think he had been playing with David Lee Roth, and he had started this band he was in this band called Army of Anyone.
Army of Anyone, great, with Jakey Lee.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
They did one record. It's phenomenal, man.
Yeah. And some of my teachers, I guess, were his friends as well, and they would talk very highly of him. And then I remember one time he was at MI, and I didn't really get a chance to go talk to him, but I've been following his work for years, man, and he's the definition of an amazing, hardworking,
great work ethic, man.
A musician of today's times, and that's something that I would like to be, quite honestly.
Well, man, keep doing what you're doing, because that's my perception of you. And from everything that we've talked about and our previous conversations and what Warren's told me. So, I mean, you're on your way, dude.
Thank you, man.
But yeah, he's something else. Really nice person too. And just a great attitude, very humble and good guy, man. Okay. So top 3 experiences, because you've done so much diverse stuff. What would be a tough question? I know. Top 3 experiences you've had musically. I know you got a lot of pressure. I know you got a lot of pressure to say Blackstrap Blues.
No, I would say.
I know that you would.
I would say I think definitely working with Warren. So apart from Blackstrap Blues, like I think a good 70 to 80% of the commercial pop, whatever you want to call it, all the different work that I've done has been with Warren. So I guess working with him in any way or form has always been something of an experience, and I always kind of go home because that dude's like an encyclopedia, man.
It's bright dude.
Bright
musician, very bright musician.
He knows his music inside out, and he'll always like tell me about some obscure shit, or like some obscure band, and he's like, "You got to check this band out," and I'd always take something away from it. So I guess working with him on some of the Coke Studio stuff has been great, and then writing the Blackstrap Blues stuff has been possibly the most organic way for me to kind of be a drummer, man. That's how I feel when I work with those guys. All the guys in the band, it's so much fun. It just feels so natural. Like there's no awkwardness sometimes, there's no ego clashes and stuff like that, because that tends to happen with bands every now and then, I guess.
You know what? I've found, and I realize when people come on the show, it's in a little bit of sense of a bubble. Like I get the best, I'm getting the best, because there's no pressure. There's no money involved, so everybody's like totally chilled out. So I get everybody's best behavior, which to be honest with you, I'm thrilled. But I have found as you have more successful people the ego is less. Now, maybe you have a guy,
every now and then.
But I mean, you look at a guy like Ehsan.
Yeah.
Good Lord. That guy's like and I think I said this in the interview. He's the kind of guy when you come off the airplane, they'd be rolling the carpet out for him.
Yeah.
And the guy's just like, like I could have come over his house for coffee after the interview or the drink, or, we could have just gone for a walk. He's just a very sweet, and everybody that I've spoken to is like that, but it's unfortunate you have an ego once in a while. Yeah.
No, but I guess that comes, I don't know, it comes with the territory, I guess, every now and then. It depends on situations or whatever. Yeah. But going back to what you were saying, some of my heroes that I met when I was in the US, I was blown away by how humble they were, man. Be it like Dennis Chambers or Vinny Colaiuta or I mean, these are people that I would consider gods,
Sure,
in many ways.
Absolutely.
And I got to actually hang out with Dennis when he came to India, and because we were opening, the band I was playing with, Indus Creed, was opening for Santana.
Oh my God!
And he was,
and Dennis was
a nice guy, man.
Dennis Chambers, Oh, he's such a great drummer.
Oh man, like he is possibly one of my most favorite, and he's like my hero, that guy.
That's cool, man.
But he was just such a nice guy, and we were talking about the weather, and I was like, man, I'm talking about the weather with Dennis Chambers, and we talk about food and whatnot. But yeah, I guess. Sorry to divert from your.
No, it is no. Sorry, man. This is it. It is what it is. This is perfect.
Yeah, but I would say, yeah, definitely working with Blackstrap Blues and Warren, I guess, in many ways has been something that I'd always consider a highlight. It's hard to, usually you have like drummers and bass players that kind of need to really lock. Like I feel like I really connect with him just as I would with a bass player, which is rare for a guitar player usually, because most guitar players want to just show you their chops or whatever. Most drummers do, I guess.
Yeah, he's not like that at all. He's musically very bright, very open, man.
He's such a strong rhythm guitar player as well. That's something that I realized with him, and he's okay with not being in the limelight. Yeah. So am I in many ways,
Yeah.
Like I quite honestly, I hate playing drum solos. I love watching them.
Yeah.
I'm not a big fan. Like I consider myself to be someone that will give their 100% to the song.
Serving the song, man. That's what it's all about.
If that requires a drum solo, absolutely. But I feel kind of awkward if like, drum solo time and things like that. I love watching. That's all I watch actually. It's just other people soloing.
Yeah.
But yeah. So yeah, working with him, working with oh man, I'm trying to think. This is like so much stuff.
I know it's a tough question.
But I have this project with Gino Banks where it's like me, Gino, and this other drummer called Vinayak Pol that you mentioned in the intro. So it's like a 3-drummer thing. So yeah, I do have to solo in that project. But yeah, basically that's all about like drums and having fun with the drums and whatnot. Stuff we don't get to do in bands.
Yeah.
So we have like compositions that are based that are rhythmically focused around rhythm and drums and stuff like that. So that's something I love working on, and I'm trying to think what else. But yeah, I guess I'm just lucky to be playing drums, man. This is something that I dreamt of doing, to make a living playing drums and just, I guess, being happy.
What kind of work did your folks do?
So my dad worked in Air India, which is the national, like American Airlines, basically. He worked in Air India for a good 25 years. And my mom worked in Thomas Cook, which is like a travel agency.
Yeah, I know them. They're huge.
Yeah, they're pretty big. Yeah. And then my mom now works with DHL. She's like the head corporate communications for Asia. That's her job.
That's great.
And my dad's retired now. But yeah, basically my folks, just a normal upper middle class is what we call it in India. Just like a middle class family, you know what I mean?
Yeah, be the same here, man.
Yeah, man, they were super, super supportive, because I was like a pretty shitty student in school, dyslexic kid that always kind of failed math and science and shit like that. Yeah, me and my brother both actually. So my mom had it really rough, because actually like when we were growing up, they didn't even know what dyslexia was. So they think like we were just dicking around and, your son's an idiot.
Oh, wow.
My mom kind of...
Yeah, that's stressful.
Figured it out. Yeah. So yeah, I was... And India is a tough place, man, as a country, I guess, Like I thank my stars that I get to do this, quite honestly, every day. Because considering things around us, there's just so much poverty and there's so much bad shit going on that who would have thought that I could actually be a musician, a full-time working musician, man, in a country like this, on a place like this, and playing music that not everyone listens to from the place that I come from.
Yeah. Well, that's what's really, see this, you talk about misperceptions. So when I first met Warren and I got turned on to his music, I was almost embarrassed, because I said, I'm embarrassed to tell you this, but I had no idea there's blues in India. And as I said it, I realized how ridiculous it sounds. It's like there's 2 billion people in the country. Like, but let me tell you what we see here. And you probably know this. The only hint of Indian, like there's no Indian radio stations. I mean, I'm sure there are underground maybe, but the average white dude is not aware of them, we see a movie and we'll hear in an Indian restaurant, they hear the Indian conventional folk music in the back, or like a 7-Eleven, a convenience store.
Absolutely.
And you see the Indian clerk working there, and you kind of hear them listening to the same music that they're playing in the restaurant. So that's our only. So like when I saw, yeah. And so when I was like, oh my God, this guy is playing blues. And afterwards I thought about it in my logical brain. I'm like, of course there's blues there, but we have no exposure to it. It's just crazy. Yeah. I mean,
no, it's exactly how you mentioned, because even for Indians in India, there's so many people that would probably like the music we make, but they'd probably never even hear us because it's all through word of mouth,
unless it's Bollywood.
Yeah, because you can't really compete with something like Bollywood because it's so mainstream and it's so in your face and it's everywhere. Right from, all the hoardings that you see when you step out of the house on TV. It's Bollywood and cricket. Like, how you guys have the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Cricket, man. It's
Bollywood,
you can't compete with, yeah.
That's wild, man.
Yeah. So there's so many people that would probably hear our music, but they just haven't. And when they do, even for people in India, there's like, fuck, man, that's cool. Like, we didn't think this shit existed in India. Like, even for me, I hadn't heard of Zero up until, because there was
to high school, you said.
It's almost like a parallel world that's kind of running, that you have to seek out in some mysterious way. It's all there.
Crazy, man. That is crazy.
And there are like all kinds of bands, man. There's some hard death metal bands. There's like some interesting folk bands, and all kinds of music that exist in India and in the non-Bollywood world that people would never know about. And that's the thing, right? Even in all the stores that you go to, or even the restaurants you go to, what they're probably listening to is maybe old Bollywood songs.
Wow. So that's
or maybe like the really hardcore guys would listen to old classical Indian classical music.
Yeah,
which is no doubt.
Yeah.
And even some of the old Bollywood stuff is really interesting because it's orchestral in many ways, and there might be like a really high pitched female voice with that, like sometimes it's kind of cringy, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what that guy grew up listening to, I guess. So he's probably listening to it again or whatever. But my point is, it's when you think of India, you can't not think about Bollywood, basically, because it is so big and just so mammoth. It's such a mammoth force, if you will, that that is it. But it's amazing that there is this other parallel world that's struggling almost to run, because it's all, do it yourself just for the sake of doing it, quite honestly.
It's terrible. I'm shocked that there's so many people there that aren't aware of, because everything that's going on here, we're aware of it because there's access to it through, certainly the internet now, but even before that, records, radio stations before, before the satellite radio.
Exactly.
We had everything here. There was nothing musically.
Even like if you were a band that, okay, let's take, for example, if you're a band in the States, 4 guys start a band at some point, play your high school. It's not something you do here. For example, if you're a band, you never play in your high school because your high school wouldn't allow it.
Oh, so really? So who's playing in the what band is playing in the high school?
No bands. They don't have any bands as such. They have marching bands. You know how you have with the big drums and everything. and but that's the other thing that the problem is, and now it's kind of opening up where schools have music programs, and they might allow bands to get there. But when I was growing up, my generation was, probably the last to not have any sort of music influence. So that's the thing. You play your high school, and then maybe you play a bar in the US, and I'm talking about hypothetically how things work there in terms of then maybe someone spots you at a show, and then back in the day you would get a record deal or whatever.
That's exactly how it worked.
And then you'd progress and you'd play different cities all over the US, or first maybe your own state.
Yes,
that's how it works.
That's exactly how it works.
But the thing is, over here it's such a big country, but there's maybe 5 or 6 big cities that would have listeners in them that you'd go and play to.
That's amazing, man. It really blows my mind, especially because one thing that other cultures have that we don't necessarily have, I mean, maybe we do, is that other ethnic cultures revolve around music.
Actually, so does India in many ways, because if you think about it, the country of India is so much like Europe, like the continent of Europe, where it's, how it's like in at one point you're in France, and then a couple of hours later you're in Germany, in another country, different cultures. So India as a whole is so vast and so big and so culturally diverse that each state has its own language, each state has its own food, has its own musical history, its own everything. So like there's parts in southern India where they speak languages that I don't understand. There's
do they speak English all over or no?
Mostly yes.
Yeah, okay.
So and there's also Hindi, which is the national language, if you will, is what we're also taught in school, is what everyone is supposed to kind of speak, I guess. It's like the national language is like how you'd go to Italy and you'd speak Italian.
Sure, yeah.
But
funny you mentioned Italy. That's one of the few countries they don't speak English for the most part at all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So a buddy of mine goes there.
You'd struggle if you go there and you
can't speak Italian.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's tough.
So that's the thing. But you can get by in India with basic English. People will understand. But what I'm trying to say is that it's so diverse that like in South India, like remember I was telling you how Bollywood is so big. So in South India, they have their own version of that. I think it's called Tollywood, if I'm not mistaken.
So it's a separate film cinema even.
Where no one gives a shit about Bollywood. That's like, that's their thing.
That's funny, man.
They got a whole different thing going on over there where it's like, they got their movie stars and their singers and whatnot. So all these movies usually have songs. So that's what we do is we record, like a lot of the commercial session work we do is record for these songs.
For Bollywood,
every now and then, So what I was trying to say is it's so hard sorry to again digress from.
No, this is great.
Is basically that it's hard for bands to just like, even for like Zero, right? For a band like Zero, like they're huge, and I guess it's like what's next in India,
Right.
And then if you try and kind of go abroad, it's like, okay, for an Indian band, it's like, who would kind of want to get an Indian band that's singing in English wherever it is in the world? Because a lot of people expect this Indian element from the bands.
Right. I mean, to be culturally Indian,
right?
As opposed to and to have a musical identity that's tied to the cultural identity as well.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
I was trying to say but I guess I don't know, it's a strange thing, man.
Yeah, that's interesting. That it kind of makes sense when you have that many people that you're not. I mean, honestly, it'd be kind of scary to have 2 billion uniform, like everybody's thinking the same shit, eating the same stuff, drink. I mean, that would be a little weird.
That would be like China, if anything.
Yeah, right. I mean, like like say it's the same thing in China where they have different languages, different dialects, different customs. So yeah, that makes more sense in a country that size. Wow, very interesting, man.
Yeah.
Were there any low points for you?
Well, like maybe I think it was 5 years ago that I actually had like a slip disc where I kind of messed up my back.
Oh, wow.
That was a horrible time for me in life because
Not good as a drummer, man.
exactly, yeah. And
Wow.
I think I injured my back in the gym because I was lifting weights, and that was a bad time because I couldn't play drums for a few months, and I was like, and my whole life,
Yeah.
that's all I kind of know, and I had no backup plan like a lot of people do.
Yeah.
It's like
No, I don't think a lot of people do, to be honest with you. I don't think.
over here, I think they do. Like over here,
Okay.
a lot of like Warren, I think just managed to wiggle his way out of being an engineer.
He was an
studying-
engineer, right? He studied engineering, but that was more of a fluke, I think, with his case because he
Exactly.
I think if I remember the story, his uncle had a studio and he was like encouraged him or put him, and Warren had like an aptitude for it, and so he let him run loose. Yeah,
something like that. But a lot of people do really study a lot of further higher education here in India because that's how the culture is. People really want, like, if a lot of normal Indian folks wouldn't let their kids just bomb off to the US and study music. It'd be very hard.
Yeah.
Although now I got to say that's opening up, and that's a great thing.
Well, your parents.
A lot young.
Congratulations to them, to you, all of as a family, man, for having such open-minded parents, man. That's great. Yeah, that's really nice.
I owe them everything. But what I was saying was, people do expect that from you. So it's so when I had that thing happen, I was like, what am I going to do now? But I went through a lot of physiotherapy and came back, and so that was possibly the lowest and darkest times of my life that I can think of.
And that was 5 years ago, and you've been okay now?
Yeah.
That's great.
Every now and then I'd get a bit of a thing, but I have to kind of watch my back, and I can't really lift heavy things, which is kind of tricky for a drummer, but yeah, I manage, I get by.
I don't know if they ever told you this, but I had back problems when I was a kid, and I studied getting strong abdominals is actually...
That's exactly why it happens, quite honestly. It's like a weak core. That's what they say,
Yeah.
And it doesn't help that I'm grossly overweight, but and just sitting and playing the drums all day. But that's what I've been working on, basically strengthening my stomach muscles.
Good for you, man. Well, I'm glad you got over that, man. That is scary.
Yeah, thanks, man. Thank you.
Do you remember the first CD you ever purchased? I'll say record, but I know you're too young for record.
I was possibly the last cassette. Do you remember those?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So I think the first cassette I bought was probably Woodstock 99, believe it or not.
Yeah, that's funny.
Yeah, and that was a great record because...
I'm feeling so old right now.
No. I did have, my parents had a bunch of cassettes, but I think that's the only one that I could get them, like, my own money, and I went and bought it. And that was amazing because it had so many different bands and artists on there, man.
Yeah.
Started with James Brown to Korn to Limp Bizkit, Metallica, Rage Against the Machine, Alanis Morissette, a bunch of different artists, and I wore that tape out, basically, listening to it so much on my way to school.
You mentioned James Brown. Have you ever gotten hip to his drummer Clyde Stubblefield?
Big time.
Man, I've been listening to the Funky Drummer in the gym like all last week, every day.
Yeah, that's cool.
It's such a good track. That one track over and over again.
There's some legendary stories of James Brown and his drummers, man.
Yeah.
And just how basically there was just zero room for error. And that's something I really respect, you got to take this shit seriously, man.
James had a reputation of being super mercurial with himself.
Yeah.
It was just, even with his appearance, I've heard and saw documentaries. There's a real good documentary on Netflix now. You guys have Netflix there, right?
Yeah.
There's a good James Brown documentary on Netflix where, even with his hair, and I've heard Al Sharpton, who's a guy he lived with for years, and he was like, everything was a perfectionist and had that same demanding sense of perfection on his band, of course.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can totally see that happening.
But they were great.
Some of the stuff I heard was when anyone would mess up, he would just turn around and, put his palm out like that, which basically meant like that's $5 off your pay tonight.
Yes, he would do that.
Yeah, that's intense. But at the same time,
hey, how many times are you only going to do that?
Yeah, that's
how many
true.
times are you going to lose $5? You know, back in the day, it's like
back in the day, $5 is a lot of money. I bet,
man.
You know? So yeah,
I should have done that with my kids. Now that I'm Desert Island Discs, man, top 3, no particular order.
Let me see. Probably this Jingchi record with Vinny Colaiuta playing on it. Jingchi Live. I don't know what year it was, but I go back to that. Yeah, anything with Vinny on it, I think I could listen to over and over and over again. Vinny and Dennis, maybe, yeah. Also, this band that I've been listening to a lot lately called The Contortionist. They're an American prog metal band, but metal is so different these days, I guess, it's so much more melodic than I guess it used to be. So that's another great band that I'd urge a lot of people
to check out. The Contortionist?
Yep.
I'll have to check them out.
Yeah, you really should. Amazing band.
I get turned. That's one of the nice things about doing this. I get turned on to so much new music from my guests. Oh my God. Yeah.
So let me see if I can tell you what albums to. They have an album called The Language that you must listen to, and another one called Clairvoyant.
The Language
that you should really check out. Yeah, great guitar playing. If that would be a highlight for you for sure.
Cool, man. Thank you.
Yeah, and
get them on the. If I get him on the show, I'll shoot you an email.
Yeah, definitely. That'd be cool. Let me see what else. Another band that I've been influenced by a lot is probably the Deftones.
Oh, good band, man.
Yeah, great band. So probably some of their records as well.
So you really do have a very, I guess for India, it would be unconventional musical taste.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah.
Because you're more like a...
like an angsty kid from
very much. Yeah, I'm like looking through this, like then you got the drumming stuff in there, of course. That's wild.
Yeah, man, I do listen. Like I think all I listen to is basically like actually some of my favorite guitar players are John Scofield,
which is totally different.
Yeah,
than all that stuff.
Michael Landau, definitely Michael Landau, and let me see. Have you heard of this band called King's X?
Oh yeah, of course. Yeah, Doug Pinnick, and
I think his name is Ty Tabor. The guitar player.
I think you're right. He's
a really good guitar player that I dig his work.
Doug and Ray have a new band out.
Really?
With George Lynch.
Oh, okay.
It's great. It's called KMX, like K for King's X, M for Lynch Mob, and
okay.
K for Korn, M for Lynch Mob, and X for King's X, and great stuff, man.
That is a combination that I would have never thought of, quite honestly.
Well, it's interesting too because George Lynch I've never heard him play that way. To me, I think it's his best playing.
Really?
Yeah, it's totally different than what he's played in the past. It works. It's a great band, and I hope they were able to get some visibility. And Ray was telling me they have another record coming out. I think he's going to come on the show to promote it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, great.
But
great band.
Yeah,
but King's X,
that's so cool. Yeah. What'd you say it was?
It's called KMX.
Okay.
K for King's X, M for Lynch Mob, like George Lynch's old project, and then K for Korn, M for Lynch Mob, and X for King's X. KMX. Okay. They have 2 records out. I like the second one. It's called Scatterbrain. Great stuff, man. Really good stuff. Yeah. I mean, just first class.
Yeah.
Man, what is your definition of happiness? This is the kind of questions that like other cultures have different perspectives on that I learn a lot from.
I guess being able to do something that you really want without getting in the way of someone else, you know what I mean? That could mean so much, but I guess to simplify that is just, if I was to give my own example, is just I mean, this is something that I wanted to do since I was 16, 17, and I really didn't think it would be possible in many ways. But I just kind of worked my ass off in so many ways and just put my head down and didn't get in anyone else's business in any way. Didn't kind of, step on anyone's toes or anything, which I think is a product of how probably I was raised by my folks,
Yeah.
and to kind of, and that's what makes me happy is that I, get to do what I want and just live my own life peacefully without kind of messing with anyone else or their vibe or whatever it is.
Well, man, you got a very easygoing way about you, but it's a very encouraging way. And it's nice to be easygoing, but when you're easygoing and enthusiastic, and then I always have this saying, he who has the most energy wins. People love energy, man. And you've got a really high energy level. And I think I know people feel that. So I could see, people just like, even if you sucked, which you don't by a long shot, you'd be like, give me that guy. Cause he's so positive and he's just so easy to deal with. So, I mean, whatever's going on, it's working very, I could see it. Why? So.
Thank you. Thanks, man. I think, a lot of the times people will hire you mainly, of course, for, your abilities to play your instrument, but also how you are as a person is equally important, I think. And that's why I think I get along with a lot of the people that I play with is maybe you bond over, having the same sense of humor or something like that, where, it just works. It just clicks like that.
Well, you know what, man? You're like supportive. And what I've noticed in the music business is the people that sort of get it are very supportive of the whole community. I think the mindset, and I'm a guy coming out of the business world where it wasn't necessarily like that. It was more of a dog eat dog. Whereas in the music business, it's more of an attitude of, hey man, we're all in this together. Rising tide lifts all boats. Let's all put out good stuff to each other and everybody's going to benefit.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah. Because it's not really a competition. And, it's just, if you just think about it, you're just a bunch of guys that spend time on your own instrument, spend time, hours, whatever it is, practicing. And then when it comes down to it, it's just how you kind of, what you feel off of that person in many ways and what you bring to the table musically that's exactly what playing music is. You feel something and then there's like this collective feeling in the room and then you add to it. And if that feeling works, it clicks. That's just it, and then it's quite magical actually, but at the same time not complicated. It shouldn't be.
No, it's it's honest, man. It's very honest. And I think the fact that everybody does this because they want to as opposed to because they have to, again, from my perspective as an outsider who spent a lot of years doing stuff that I was good at it and I'm happy I did it, but if someone said, was that what you want to be doing? No. But you guys are all there because you want to be there. That is a tremendous difference.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Yeah. And there are times when we play music that we necessarily might not listen to ourselves.
Yeah.
But that's something I think I learned from Gino and Warren, I could say, is whatever they involve themselves in musically, it was always 100%.
Yeah.
And that's something that kind of seeped onto me is, it might not be the best music in the world, but if my name's on there, it's got to be the best me.
Yeah, yeah. You got to have pride of ownership in what you do.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm a big. So I think that's so important, man.
Yeah, and also you have to. It's kind of like a seesaw in many ways, where if you do too much music that doesn't make you happy, and so it, like a mental seesaw. It's like that's why I love Blackstrap Blues and all the other stuff I do is I get to express myself.
Yeah,
and it's about and every now and then I'd really play my ass off at the live gigs and whatnot because I can, and there's no vocals that I'm stepping over.
Well, and you can also make the claim that to some extent it's the other gigs where you're really not in love with the music that lets you go out with the stuff you love and just tear it up.
Exactly.
You know?
I enjoy even some of the commercial work. I enjoy playing the song like it should. Like I geek out about stuff like that. You know?
Yeah. Well, it goes back to that pride of ownership again. I think of you geeking out of it because your name is on it, man, and it's got to be a certain standard. Yeah. So that's very cool, man.
Going back to your question, I think that's what to me happiness is. It's just getting to do what you want and without, you know, being responsible for someone else's unhappiness is,
yeah,
you know.
Yeah, being responsible for someone else's unhappiness is bullshit. Yeah. It's not possible. Everybody's responsible for their own, for the most part, with a rare exception.
Cool.
Hey, tell me something about yourself people would either be surprised to hear or might find a little odd.
There's this funny story from when I was in LA. So I like my closest friends were this Greek guy Marios and this dude from LA who was Mexican, Juan his name was. And I don't know how this happened, but at some point, like we were playing drums for so many hours, and at some point someone started talking about this show called the OC. I don't know if you've heard of it.
I'm not a big TV guy, but it's the Orange County out in California. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay.
It's basically like it's like your typical, like, you know, soap opera kind of show.
Mm.
And somehow all of us started watching this show and we'd get hooked. And it's so fucking weird because you have all these drummers and whatnot, and everyone's huddling around on this one dude's laptop. You know,
watching the OC.
Watching the OC, yeah. So this became like a bit of a joke, like later with my friends. And so, yeah, I that's something I just thought of randomly. I don't know why.
You like the OC? You still watch it? Is it still on?
No, I don't think it is. I wouldn't watch it anymore. But that was funny because you have this Greek guy trying to, you know, it's like, hey man, what is this bullshit, man? Right? What is this Orange County shit? And he actually spoke like that. That's not my generic like Middle Eastern accent. He actually spoke like that. The great guy. His name is Marios. He's a drummer. He does a lot of work in Athens now. And so yeah, him and this other guy I forgot to mention, Leonard Nims, black kid from LA, and his take on the whole thing was amazing as well, man.
That's so funny.
Be like, yeah, all white people like that. You know what I mean? that was
is
funny.
there a lot of black? Are there a lot of black people in India?
No, not really.
Yeah,
if you mean like, of African,
yeah, like African Americans.
No, not at all actually. Although I got to say there is a tribe somewhere in India, in southern India, that are direct descendants of African people.
Yeah, but there's no like Americans, like black Americans that moved out there or something like that. No, interesting.
That would be an interesting social experiment, if anything. Definitely.
That's wild.
Yeah. But Indians are fascinated, man, if they saw like a giant, like, because, you know, a lot of black people are built very differently than Indians. Indians are, you know, usually an average of like 5'5" or whatever. And if like, every now, like I was reading something about they had some NBA players come in. And you should have just seen how fascinated these Indian dudes were by how tall these guys were. You know?
Well, that's fascinating to anybody here. I mean, you got a guy that's 7 feet tall. It's like,
yeah.
One time, my wife and kids and I went up to Orlando. We were in a hotel. We walked into the elevator, and there's this. I think they might have closed it. There was a professional. It was like a semi-professional group called the Harlem Globetrotters. But so so we walked in the elevator, and there's 5 or 6 Globetrotters there. And my daughter at the time, I think, was 3. And I remember I watched her, just her head rising. It was like looking at a redwood tree in California forest somewhere. It was just to see 5 or 6 guys around you. And one time I took my middle son to an NBA game, and we had pretty good tickets. And it was like, when you're that close to guys 7 feet tall, it's amazing. Yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah, totally.
Yeah. I get. Yeah.
What's the most important thing your dad taught you?
I I think just generally my dad specifically.
Yeah.
Probably just to like do the right thing in many ways. And, again, going back to being happy, but not kind of screwing anyone else over.
Sure.
And in many ways, like, and just being honest. And I think etiquette is something, or ethics rather,
Yes.
is something my dad and my folks, that I really kind of value now. When you get older, you kind of understand these things
Sure.
a lot more. That it could be something as simple as, finish what's on your plate. My dad was very particular about things like that. Don't waste your food, things like that. And that's something I get now a lot more than it, when I was a kid, I guess.
How about your mom? Most important thing she taught you?
Let me see. Possibly like a lot of similar things, I would say, but if there was something specific, I'm trying to think. I guess I don't know. I can't think of anything specific, but I'm very close to my mom, and we still hang out every now and then. They live very close to where I live.
Oh, that's great, man.
Yeah, but I keep taking advice from my mom if I'm stuck in a jam. How should I do this? And again, it's like let me give you an example. Like, suppose I get a booked for a gig that doesn't pay me so well, and then at the same time I get an inquiry for another gig that maybe pays me twice or thrice as much as that.
Right.
For example, I mean, like the values they taught me in many ways would, be like, okay, you've committed to something, you kind of have to go with it.
Yeah, you do.
That's something I respect my parents a lot for, that things like that. And I wouldn't kind of screw someone else over just because there's money involved or something like that.
Yeah.
And
well, I think that also comes back karmically.
Yes.
You know what I mean? You do stuff in life. Yeah. Plus, I mean, then, and there's nothing wrong with letting it be.
Reputation.
What's that?
Sorry, I was saying it's your reputation. When in the end, it's like people think you're a flake.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you've committed to something, you kind of have to see it through.
Yeah.
And yeah,
commitment's important.
And I guess discipline, is something my parents taught me about in terms of, like if you get into something, kind of, go all in or don't do it at all.
Yeah.
Which is something that can be a useful tool.
Oh,
I may not use it in all aspects of life, but as far as my work goes, I think I'm pretty on it like that.
Do you have any non-musical superpowers?
I'm half decent at playing a bunch of video games every now and then. But apart from that, I don't know. I'd make my friends laugh. Maybe I enjoy doing that.
Good sense of humor.
I would like to think so, but yeah.
I'll have to.
It'd be best if you ask them.
So Warren's going to be listening to this. You have to give us a report card here, Warren.
Yeah.
Is he delusional or not?
I can do a good, fairly decent Warren impression every now and then. If he really annoys me, that's my defense. Just start talking like him.
You did a couple of good accents here, actually.
Oh yeah,
during this interview.
He's like, for this part, we'll just just skip play this. Just play the chorus here straight. Try not to fuck around too much on this part, and don't go all Vincent on me. That's his thing.
Don't go all Vincent.
Yeah, Vincent as in like Vinny Colaiuta.
Oh my god, that's so funny.
Just don't do that Vincent shit over here. That's his thing.
You sound just like him, man. That is hilarious. Oh my god.
You gotta hear him, like when he gets to like talking about gear. Oh my god, dude! I'm really like, man, shut the fuck up. But at the same time, it's fascinating because he's just like he is. I feel the same way about drum gear, and snares and cymbals and stuff. The same ways he feels about his. Because that's all he does, dude. He's just
he does it all himself too. Like he rips stuff apart and like he says, "I love a Strat because you can modify it." And like the glee, the sheer joy in his voice when he said that, I was like, I could just I could feel him inside thinking about ripping up a freaking pickup and just, or not taking out a pickup and, experimenting with some new ones and A-Bing something else.
Yeah.
It was, he's really,
man, if I'm over at his house, there's like packages coming in all the time. And like, I think a couple of days ago, I was at his house and he had a little box coming from China, like some tubes. I was like, what is this? He's like, oh, just some tubes from China that I got from the solar. But yeah, he's cool, man. It's so much fun hanging out with him.
Do you have any hobbies outside of music?
I guess like watching movies, things like that, and maybe traveling. I enjoy traveling quite a bit and just checking out new places and new food things to eat and whatnot.
What's your favorite place you've traveled? I know you've been all over.
I really liked Australia. I was there a couple of years ago for one of my closest friends. Two of my closest friends, they got married, and I spent about 3 weeks there, and that was really something. I quite enjoyed it. It's a lot like laid back, I find, in many ways, and a lot like I just found like the common folk that I met there, they had a great sense of humor and stuff like that. Quite enjoyed it.
That comes up. That might be the number one response, Australia, actually.
Sense of humor?
No. Australia as their favorite place. Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, that might be the number one. I've heard that many, many times. I'm trying to think what else I heard.
You should check it out if you haven't been. It's quite something, man.
Yeah, I've never been there. I would like to go. Definitely like to go. The states are so big. I haven't been to a lot of states to check them out enough yet, to be honest. But I would like to see Australia.
True. I've been pretty lucky. I've seen quite a lot of the U.S. over the years.
What do you like? What part of the states do you like the best?
Probably the West Coast.
Yeah, it's beautiful there.
I mean, again, that's a big thing, the whole of the West Coast. But maybe LA. I really like being in LA for sure. I mean,
I could tell when you were talking about it. You could see you had some. Yeah.
Maybe, like if I could, I don't think I'd live in Hollywood because that's a madhouse. But parts of California are just beautiful that I think. And I went to San Francisco late last year, and that was the first time I went to Northern California, and I really liked it.
Yeah. Have you seen the Pacific Northwest, like Washington State? That
I would love to.
Yeah, that is like. I'm not a religious person, but that is like God's handiwork, man. That it was breathtaking. Every inch of that thing was just. I mean, just driving on the highway was breathtaking, man. Really cool.
I know, because I've seen so many. You see stuff on the internet or in movies and stuff like that, and it's just I can just imagine just those beautiful tall trees and
just the mountains. And again, Florida is really flat here, so. Yeah, I'm not, I see mountains and it's just like growing up in New York City. I like nature. So I'm down here. I see, fish, squirrels, and, anything I love that. So I always think it's for me, when you always want what you're not used to,
Yeah. I was actually, I have been to Florida as a kid when I was about 10 or 11 with my family. And we did like a thing where we went to Orlando and then we did like a cruise. Yeah, we did like a cruise. We went to Nassau. These islands called Nassau.
That I don't know.
That was fun.
That sounds. It's nice. The Caribbean is nice.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And Universal Studios, man, that was like, I can still go back there and have so much fun, dude.
Yeah, that is a fun place, actually. Yeah, we took our kids there plenty of times, man.
Yeah.
Hey, 3 questions left.
Sure.
Most embarrassing or funniest thing that's happened to you on stage or in the studio?
On stage, I can think of the time so we were playing this gig in Delhi. Mm-hmm. I remember years ago, 2003 or something like that. And it was a college gig. So everyone was pretty hammered, I remember. And I think I may have had a couple of beers before the gig, me. No, I did.
For research purposes.
Yeah, just to see, for scientific purposes.
That's right,
but but at some point, I think the gig was supposed to be about an hour and a half, and then at some point we ended up playing for almost like 3 hours, and I was like, man, I got to take a piss, dude, like just like time out.
Yeah.
And So I told the singer, and this was a really fun band I was in with actually the drummer that used to be in the drummer from Zero, not used to be, the drummer of Zero, Sid. So he always wanted to be a guitar player, and when he heard me play drums, he's like, dude, we got to start a band. I'm going to sing and play guitar. You play drums. I was like, you got it, dude. So we started this band called Tough on Tobacco, which was a reggae band. Although this was way before that. Sorry, long story short, I tell him, dude, I got to take a piss, do your thing. So I was like, I'm making my way off stage, and it was a really high stage. It must have been like 10, 12 feet. And I was like, trying to hurry it up because I didn't want to waste too much time, and I've missed the steps entirely.
Oh my God!
And smashed my shin onto these steel, steps, and I'm like dying in pain.
Oh man!
And I remember this, like the minute I fell, there was this girl there, and I was like, I'm like dying in pain, and I was like, can't believe this shit's happening to me right now. And this girl is like, can I go play drums? And I was like, oh, so imagine like everyone's hammered, the band's, like pretty wasted, and they turn around and they just see this strange girl playing drums, and there's no sign of me. And then I remember I went back and I finished the show somehow. But yeah, that was pretty fucking embarrassing to like fall
so
off stage
funny.
like that.
Oh man. Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Anything you regret not doing?
I don't really regret it, but I think I would really, quite honestly, like to play guitar or like learn guitar. I don't really know how to play that much guitar apart from a few chords, and I enjoy, like I tell Warren to kind of tune down to drop D, and then I like pump the shit out of his Les Paul. But apart from that, I think I'd like to kind of write songs of my own at some point.
Yeah, man, do it.
Yeah. I don't think I have any regrets as such.
Yeah, make sure you do that, because that's a common regret that a lot of guys I've spoke to. So if you got that thought in your head, just get one song out and then go from there, man. And then get another song out,
Yeah.
Don't think about getting an album out. Just get a song out, It's easier that way.
Yeah. And with today's times, you can just sit at home and kind of get a half decent sound.
Yeah.
Technology at your disposal. So
absolutely. And you got enough guys to run it by and play it with too. Yeah. So that's cool.
True. I really have no excuse apart from just lack of time now, I guess. But
just make the time when you get some thoughts here and there,
Yeah.
If it takes you 2 months to put together a song, so now you got a song. You get 2 months are going to pass anyway, right? Might as well have a song with it, right?
That's smart.
Yeah, that's what I told.
When you put it like that, that makes a lot of sense. Actually.
Man, that's what I told my kid. My younger kid is 26. He just went back to college, and he was hemming and hawing. He goes, "Man, if I finish, I won't be finished till I'm like 30, maybe even 32." I said, "Man, even if you finish when you're 35," I said, "you're going to be 35 anyway. Might as well be 35 with a skill set than 35 without a skill set." And he said,
"That's true."
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah,
that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, it's just I got to tell myself the same thing for shit I got to do. So
Yeah.
Biggest change in your personality over the last 5 years, and how much of this change, Jay, has been deliberate, and how much is just a natural part of aging?
That's a good question. I think I've learned to be a lot more patient in many aspects of life, I guess, Or let's just say I have become a lot more patient than I was 5 years ago, and definitely, I guess, as you grow older, you get a little more open-minded about things, and you wouldn't dismiss things as quick as I would when I was younger.
Sure.
And things like that, maybe.
Very cool.
It could be anything. It could be, maybe trying something new to eat, or checking out a band. Maybe not having so many preconceived notions about things is something that, I guess, for me has kind of come with age, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, man, for sure.
But yeah, and also, so that also comes down to musically, where when you're younger, you'd want to kind of show your chops off all the time and shit like that, which I have been guilty of. I'm no denying that, but now I kind of understand things a lot more as a whole, which make me, I think, a better musician than I was 5 years ago, which is the goal, quite honestly, is to be better than I was, in the past.
Thank you, man. I really appreciate it. I got to tell you, I said this to you before we started. I've really enjoyed talking with you, and I've had such great experiences with, just a very warm, most musicians are, but I've really enjoyed meeting all you guys from India, and I hope to continue. And man, I hope maybe you see you one day over here in the States. It'd be great.
Thank you so much, man. I hope you come out here at some point, because
I would love to, man. I would love to come out there. I just thought.
We'll feed you. We'll get you some elephants. We'll get Warren to, we'll hook up a gig.
I could see the photo now, me pointing to, and then an arrow, Craig, elephant, in the photo.
Yeah.
I'd love to.
I really do hope we meet sometime. It's been nothing short of fun, man, quite honestly. And like I was saying to you, I think before we started, is it just means so much to me that you take out, your time and your energy to kind of, that the fact that you actually found, let's say, Warren, for example, and that you still continue to kind of push our music, and it really, really means the world to us, man.
Oh, cool, man.
Like I was telling you, because it's almost like a parallel world where you have to seek it.
Yeah.
And now you found us weirdos.
We're here, man. Now we're here.
All in it together.
Yeah, man. It's all in it together, man. Oh, we're separated by a thread of Skype here. That's it, bro.
That's true. That's true, man.
Let me tell people where to find you and to check you out. So first of all, and I've probably been butchering his name. It's Row Kavi, and his name is spelled Jai, Jai, Row Kavi. That's like a very cool name, by the way. It's like a very, musician name. Man, you got you got the name shit down. Is that your real name?
That is, yes.
It's
actually strange because it's a weird last name even in India, man.
Is it really?
I don't think there's another family in the world with that name. That's kind of weird.
No way.
So,
really?
Yeah, if you Google it, I'll tell you what will show up. So my name will probably show up, and my uncle is possibly India's first gay activist. He was like an activist for, the community and
back in
the day. And so his name will show up, and my name will show up, and my dad's name will show up, who used to be a director and a filmmaker back in the day. That's about it. You're not
really?
Anything. Yeah.
That's interesting because it seems like it would be an Indian name. I didn't look at it and say, well, he's Italian or anything like that.
Oh, no. It's definitely, it's an Indian name, but the combination of the two last names is kind of weird, I guess.
Oh, the Row Kavi.
Yeah. It's actually pronounced Rao, but even here people say Row because it spells Row. So yeah.
Row Kavi. Jai Row
yes.
Kavi. Now I'm Indian.
Yeah,
poof,
you got
like that.
You got a little red dot.
Yeah, there you go, man.
You're recording.
So check out Jai Row Kavi, and he's just a brilliant drummer. I mean, you could find him anywhere, but look at the stuff he's done with Blackstrap Blues live. Just a phenomenal drummer, man. You really appreciate drumming. To me, what I've learned is you don't realize how important a drummer is until you see a good one. It really, it's like one of those things where, like, for some reason, if you don't know it, you have to be brought to your attention, sort of, and it gets brought to your attention when you see a great drummer like you. And it really just changes the whole dynamic of everything, the song, the music, the intensity, the energy, which is, that's why we're all in music, man. We're there to get a transference of energy, man. And that matters like huge, cool. Man. Cool. Yeah. And you can find Jay online on YouTube. He's got a YouTube channel. Please look him up. Again, his name is spelled JaiRowKavi. Check out his YouTube channel, support it, subscribe to it. He's also on Instagram and Facebook. And if you are listening to this and you're like an intermediate level drummer, he does give Skype lessons or
no,
in person.
Usually,
can you do Skype drum lessons? You can.
That's a big thing. Yeah. That's a big thing.
All right. So here's the deal, man. If you pony up the rupees, he might consider doing a Skype lesson. But if you don't and you want to meet him in person, let me give you his email address. And again, only if you're an intermediate drummer and up. It's Row Kavi, JAIROWKAVI @gmail.com. So hit him up. Please be respectful. Don't waste his time. Let him know what you're looking at doing. And he's a super busy dude. And maybe you guys could hook up if he could help you out. And that's it, man. Thank you so much for everything. It's really been a pleasure and honor. And we'll stay in touch. And man, I'd love to come to India. That would be the shit, man.
Yeah, anytime, man.
I just saw this guy. Do you know who Drew Binsky is? He's a guy online. He's probably around your age, and all he does is travel all over the world. And I guess he's made his gig through, I don't know, probably social media stuff. And he's just had this whole episode. He was in India for a few weeks, and every day it was like, oh my God, I don't want to leave here. I can't tell you how wonderful the people are. And he was just like over the moon about it, man. So I was like, man, I know all these people in India. I should really go over there, man. So I'd go there just to listen to you play, to be honest with you. All you guys, you and Warren and Essen, come on, man. That's a pretty good, that's a good pick of the litter, man. To be honest with you, musically, good musical pedigree I can go check out over there. Thank you, man. I really appreciate everything.
Absolutely, man. Thank you, man. Thanks for having me again. It really, really means the world that,
My pleasure. Come out with your record. You'd come on again. We give us something more to talk about. There you go.
Got it, man. You got it.
Everybody, thank you so much for listening. If you enjoyed this, please share it with a friend on your social media channels. We appreciate your support and help with this. Thanks again to Row Kavi for spending time with us. I really appreciate it. Support his music and support his YouTube channel. Subscribe. And if you're a drummer, go and hit him up for some lessons. Make sure you go to everyonelovesguitar.com. Sign up to get on our newsletter list so you and I can connect. And most important, remember that happiness is a choice. So choose wisely. Be nice, go play your guitar and your drums, and have fun. Till next time, peace and love, everybody. I'm out. We hope you enjoyed this show. If you did, subscribe to the Everyone Loves Guitar podcast, and you can do this online at everyonelovesguitar.com or on iTunes. And if you like the show, please leave us a 5-star positive review. The more 5-star reviews we get, the higher our show ranks, and higher rankings mean we get to continue speaking with cool, interesting guests on our show. We'll see you on the next episode, and until then, keep playing your guitar and have fun making music.